This is the online lecture slideshow for Philosophy 131, Learning Module 4. The subject is the problem of evil. This is part 1 of 2 parts. See Learning Module 4, the problem of evil. Evil is, at least, any bad state of affairs, wrongful action, or character flaw that appears to be unnecessary or pointless. If it is real and not merely apparent, then it has serious implications for several mainstream religions. There is much controversy over whether evil is real or illusory, and whether it is compatible with or undermines a belief in the Judeo-Christian Muslim God. In this section, we will focus on defining and explaining evil. We also aim to understand what, if anything, it implies for religious belief and practice. The specific learning objectives for this slideshow are answers to these questions. What is evil? Why is evil a problem for theists? What possible solutions to the problem of evil are there? How do some philosophers resolve the problem of evil? What viable options are there for people who wonder whether evil and God are compatible? This is a trigger warning. A trigger warning is a statement at the start of a piece of writing, video, etc., which alerts the reader or viewer to the fact that it contains potentially distressing material. So be advised, material, examples, and arguments I present in this slideshow might offend your sensibilities or cause you to recall actual trauma. Traumatizing people or offending them is never my intent, but it is sometimes an unavoidable consequence of realistic discussion and serious philosophical analysis. Thinking about this material in the way I present it is essential to your understanding the reality and depth of the problem of evil. It will probably at least make you sad or irritated. It makes me sad and irritated. Now you can't say you were not prepared for this. Question 1. What is evil? Evil is essentially unnecessary harm or suffering. For example, doing or enabling or allowing unnecessary suffering is evil when one can stop it or prevent it. Not all suffering is evil. We focus on the sort of suffering which is excessive or pointless. For now, let us assume that evil is real. There are 2 kinds of evil, natural and moral, each with 2 subcategories based on what causes it. Some people deny the natural evil. So what's natural evil? This is when natural events uncaused by humans, cause much unnecessary suffering. For instance, disease, famine, fires, floods, earthquakes, etc. There are 2 forms of this: nature on humans, natural evil, and nature on non-humans, natural evil. Okay, so there's also moral evil. And moral evil is the excessive suffering inflicted on humans and non-human animals by humans. Moral evil is the evil humans do. Abuse, lying, murder, rape, genocide, slavery, cruelty, torture, terrorism, slaughter for fun and profit. There are 2 kinds of this. There's the sort where humans do, allow, or enable evil done to fellow humans. Or humans do evil on non-humans, say animals or even an ecosystem. Okay, here are some possible examples of evil. Natural evil would be, for instance, earthquakes and tsunamis. A moral evil might be rape. Someone stealing food from someone who is starving. This could be a moral or a natural evil. Natural evil. Animals consuming other animals while still alive, say in the Serengeti, every day. Moral evil. Executing prisoners. Natural evil. Forest fires. Animal sacrifice in religious rituals. Natural evil or moral evil. Moral evil. Oil spills. Accidental, but these could be avoided. Is evil real? Denying that evil is real or calling it an illusion amounts to saying that genocide, terrorism, murder, rape, torture, earthquakes, tidal waves, volcanic eruptions, plagues, and starving children are not bad or are somehow good. But everything is not awesome. How is murder, rape, torture ever good? Question 2. Why is evil a problem for theists? 4 questions attributed to Epicurus. If God is able but not willing to prevent evil, then God is not all good. If God is willing but not able to prevent evil, then God is not all powerful. If God is not willing and not able to prevent evil, then why is God revered? If God is both willing and able to prevent evil, then why is there evil? The problem is at least 3 problems. Suppose evil is any unnecessary, excessive, or pointless pain and suffering. If we accept this description, then there appear to be at least 3 problems. Why is there any evil? Why is there so much? Given that there is evil, why believe in God rather than not believe? Notice that an answer to number 1, why is there any evil, will not be a good enough answer to number 2, why is there so much? How is question 3 a problem? What, if anything, has the Judeo-Christian Muslim God to do with evil? After all, isn't evil only what men do? We focus especially on question 3, and I'll call this the big problem. Logical arguments demonstrate the big problem. According to the Judeo-Christian Muslim conception of God, God is all-powerful, omnipotent, all-knowing, omniscient, and all-good, omnibenevolent. Let us refer to this God as the Omnigod, or OG. This means that God can do anything, knows everything, and only does what is good. But if God is the OG, as described, then many people find good reasons to believe that such a God does not exist. By way of introduction to this huge set of issues on evil, God, and whether the existence of both can be reconciled, I present first the simple abstract argument in outline form that Michael Tooley uses in section 1 of his Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy entry on the problem of evil. I've made very slight changes for the sake of clarification. Tooley's argument is valid, which is to say, in precise logical terms, that it is impossible for the conclusion to be false if all of the assumptions are true. Of course, if an assumption is false, then the argument fails. Here's Tooley's valid argument, which exposes evil as a reason to doubt God's existence. Number 1, if God exists, then God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. God has the power to stop evil. God knows about evil. God desires good over evil. Number 2, if God is omnipotent, then God has the power to eliminate all evil. Number 3, if God is omniscient, then God knows when evil exists. Number 4, if God is omnibenevolent, then God has the desire to eliminate all evil. Number 5, evil exists. There is too much rape, murder, disease, and starvation. Number 6, if evil exists and God exists, then either God doesn't have the power to eliminate all evil, or doesn't know when evil exists, or doesn't have the desire to eliminate all evil. Number 7, therefore God doesn't exist, or God is not so great as we think. Is there evil because there is no God? You should realize that the existence of actual evil causes some people to wonder whether anything like the Omnigod actually exists. Scholarly literature on this issue is vast and deep. Tooley's article is a fine overview. Read it, but some of it will be beyond the scope of our discussion. Evil really is a problem. Recall that all suffering is not evil. For instance, pain, war, and even death are not always evil, because sometimes suffering is unavoidable, even necessary. Unfortunate accidents are not evil. The suffering we are addressing is the suffering which is excessive, unnecessary. Lethal brain cancer in children, long excruciating illness or famines. The suffering we cannot merely blame on the victims or bad people. Some really bad people in human history exemplify the problem. Use Wikipedia to find out more about Genghis Khan, Vlad the Impaler, Ivan the Terrible, Torquemada, Emperor Hirohito, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Pol Pot, etc. Of course, people disagree about which actions or events or people are evil. But people do not disagree so much that they cannot point to that essential element of such examples which is truly evil. Massacres and genocides and such events as the rape of Nanking, ordered by sadistic dictators, is explained by these bad actors, sure, but just explaining the cause of evil is evading the problem. Are all of these killings and rapings and starvings really necessary? Why has there been and why will there continue to be so much suffering? Denial is part of the problem. People want to call some actions or people or events evil, and yet seek to explain it away as if it is either not so bad or somehow required in the grand scheme of things. But either explanation needs proving. If one asserts seriously that no suffering is evil, or evil is illusory, then you have to convince people whose children are ravaged by cancer, or raped by family members, or killed by terrorists, that their suffering is not evil, and that, in fact, such suffering cannot be avoided, since it is necessary to God's divine plan for redemption, salvation, or whatever. It's not enough to explain some evil, or the greatest of evils. One must justify any and every evil, for God is not good or great if any of it is unnecessary. It's not enough to show us how some evil leads to some good or even greater overall good. We have to show why any specific evil is the only way to accomplish some good. If anybody could bring about good without so much evil, God could. If God gets credit for some of the good we enjoy, then why isn't God responsible for some of the misery? As Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility. The problem of evil is a challenge to theism, but also an argument for atheism. Theists believe in God and evil, so they respond with defenses and explanations. Such efforts are called theodicies, from the Greek term theos, for God, and dike, for justice. Such theists see the problem and address it. Some theists find theodicies uninteresting or unnecessary. They have their faith, and arguments are pointless. Atheists, who are not convinced that any gods exist, but that too much evil exists, find that the best explanation for the actual evil that exists is that there is no God to prevent it. Some atheists are interested in theodicies since reconciling evil would make God's existence less improbable. As things are, evil or unnecessary pain and suffering are evidence against either God's existence or God's greatness or goodness. It's a problem. Some atheists are not interested in theodicies. They do not believe in God because of a lack of evidence. Evil is really awful, and cruel people and random accidents explain it. We just have to deal with it. Question number 3. What possible solutions to the problem of evil are there? Here are what I will call the top 10 solutions to the problem of evil. Number 1. Evil is necessary, or the evil is good solution. Number 2. Accept atheism. There is evil because there are no gods to prevent it. Solution 3. There is no evil other than the evils that men do. Solution 4. Evil is deserved, or call this the original sin solution. We are born morally depraved and need punishing, saving, redemption, etc. God's test, judge, punish. Solution 5. The devil made me do it, or it's the devil's work solution. Solution 6. Evil is temporary, or the heavenly reward solution. Number 7. The evil is just the absence of good solution. Number 8. Change the definition of God's solution. God is not perfect, all-powerful, all-good, or adopt a lesser God. Number 9, adopt another religious perspective solution. Reincarnation happens, or evil, like souls and gods, is illusory. Solution number 10, give up by saying, that's just the way it is, and stop using the term evil. Consider the evil is deserved or the original sin solution. The Hebrew Bible implies that evils in the world result from the original sin of Adam and Eve. See Genesis chapter 3. We are all children of Adam and Eve who violated God's command in the Garden of Eden. So we are all morally weak. No one is innocent. No one deserves total happiness, a life free from misery and suffering. Since no one deserves to be happy, no injustice is done if anyone suffers, even if the suffering person happens to be a child. Children are not truly innocent since they have this potential for sin, which afflicts the whole human race. Evil is divine justice, since we are all sinners. Problem: how is it fair to punish anyone for the sins of their ancestors? Children are innocent because they have not yet done anything wrong, whatever their natural inclinations or God-given moral weaknesses might be. It seems only fair to punish people for crimes that they do commit, not crimes that they might commit. So, even if we agreed that all humans are depraved, simply by being human, we still must explain why some people suffer more than others. If the amount of original sin in each person is the same, the punishment should be the same. Since some people suffer more than others, at least some of the world's evil is unexplained by original sin. How about the evil is just the absence of good solution? In the 13th century, Thomas Aquinas, elaborating upon Augustine of Hippo, argued that the theist is not required to explain the evils in the world, because, strictly speaking, these evils do not exist. Evil, Aquinas says, has no reality of its own. Evil is the lack or absence of good. We just misunderstand. Aquinas thinks everything real in the universe is good. Whatever God makes is good, and the places where evil is felt are just places where good is lacking. Evil does not exist without good, and not every absence of good is evil. This is what Aquinas says: everything that exists is good. How do we know that God loves sinners, he asks? Because there are sinners. God does not create evil creatures or natures, and nothing else creates evil. Evil must therefore be the lack of good or the corruption of something good, rather than the presence of something purely or intensely evil. Problem: Aquinas' solution is inadequate when applied to one of many common forms of suffering, the evil of acute or chronic pain. For example, the pain a child with whooping cough or brain cancer endures. Such pain is an unpleasant feeling. If a person has pain, the pain really exists. The pain may exist in the absence of health, but the pain itself is real, not an absence of anything. Pain feels like something rather than nothing. The lack of pain may be nothing, but pain itself is actual. Pain is not weakness leaving the body. Pain is injury or disease in the body. A little less of an unreal suffering is something God is able to bring about. Now consider the devil made me do it, or the devil's work solution. The evils of the world resulted from the actions of superhuman evil beings, or devils, directed by Satan. Satan inflicted sufferings upon Job, a good and upright man. Why should God choose to create Satan and let him loose in the world? Well, if God exists, this is the best possible universe since God produced it. In the best possible universe, one would expect every kind of being to exist, from the most primitive to the most advanced. Thus, in the universe there must be intelligent creatures more powerful than human beings. Furthermore, since freedom is good, God has endowed these superhuman creatures with the freedom to choose between good and evil. One of these fiendish creatures, Satan, chooses evil. But God cannot prevent Satan's choice without depriving Satan of free will, already irrevocably bestowed upon him. Thus, Satan is responsible for the evil of his choices and the evil that men do, and God is responsible only for the good of Satan's freedom. Problem: Even if we accept the existence of devils, this does not solve the problem of evil, for we must explain why a good God would let devils torture innocents. God gave devils free will, so they can, if they wish, torment each other, but their freedom does not require their inflicting suffering on human children. Free will for anyone does not require that one be free to do whatever one wishes, including torturing children. If that were true, beings would lack free will simply because they cannot fly. What about the evil is temporary, or the heavenly reward solution? Some people have faith that the misery of the innocent on earth is compensated by rewards in heaven. Their suffering is temporary. Scripture implies that suffering during life is counterbalanced by eternal bliss after death, which is guaranteed to all children who suffer and die. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Matthew chapter 5. The heavenly reward solution implies that it is okay that children suffer if this suffering makes them better off later. But this is unconvincing. Suppose a clever, sadistic billionaire who evades capture and prosecution kidnaps and molests a child for 7 days. He then releases the child and anonymously establishes a trust fund for $1 million in the child's name. He and his rich pedophile friends do this sort of thing regularly. Even if we think that, on balance, the child is better off after the torture than before, he is richer, we don't believe such actions are acceptable or justified. It seems similarly difficult to think God would be good and just, even if he sets aside greater rewards in heaven for children, molested or otherwise, victims of circumstance and misfortune. Another solution. We could change the definition of God. Perhaps God is not perfect. So atheists go too far when they reject the existence of any God whatsoever. Perhaps God is not what we think. Perhaps God is not exactly as the Bible and the Quran and religious people say. Religious interpreters, prophets, specialists project their wishes and hopes onto an inconsistent concept of God. They might be mistaken, and yet some sort of God or gods still could exist. Maybe God has limits. Perhaps God is not perfect. The following valid argument demonstrates this point. Number one, if God is all-powerful, then God would be able to abolish evil. Number two, if God is all good, then God would not allow evil to be. Number three, either God is not able to abolish evil or God allows evil to be. Number four, therefore, either God is not all-powerful or God is not all good. Problem. If we accept this revised concept of God, given the way the world is, then we are no longer operating with the mainstream Judeo-Christian Muslim concept of God. Perhaps this is a satisfactory resolution, since the Judeo-Christian Muslim conception of God seems to have irreconcilable attributes. Recall Epicurus' questions on a previous slide. So let's focus on solutions 1 and 2. I think these are the most viable solutions. Number 1, again, evil is necessary or evil is good solution. And number 2, accept atheism. That is, there is evil because there are no gods to prevent it. There are also 2 related non-solutions which usually get raised by apologists. Both are evasions. Each is a little mysterious. So let's get these out of the way now. The first one, that's just the way it is. Life is like that. This fails to grasp or understand the magnitude of the problem and also lacks compassion for the real suffering of others, especially children or the unfortunate. The second non-solution, well, God has his reasons which human minds cannot know. This leaves us with a non-answer, trading a mysterious description of God for lack of an explaining reason. How much suffering is too much? How much suffering is too much? In the 1300s, the bubonic plague killed over 200 million people. In the 1550s, a Chinese earthquake killed over 830,000 people. It has been called the worst natural disaster in human history. 6 million Jews and other ethnic minorities were killed by Nazi Germany during World War II in the 1940s. 1 million Tutsis and moderate Hutus were massacred by Hutu militia groups in Rwanda in 1994. 200,000 people died in the 2004 earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia. 316,000 people died during the 2010 earthquake in Haiti. Either all of this is necessary or some of it is not. Is all of this really necessary? People do not understand the implications of embracing the evil is necessary solution. This view implies that there is no real evil. Evil is only apparent. And even the evil that humans do is not really evil, since in some way it is required for some greater good to fulfill God's plan, to enable human freedom, to make us appreciate the good, to build character, etc. So apparent evils are really good. If every perceived evil is allowed by God or part of God's plan for some reason, incomprehensible to self-centered and weak human minds, then there is no evil. It's all really good. A possible solution is somehow a solution to an actual problem. Sure, possibly. Every evil has instructive or redemptive value. But it is also possible that some evil is pointless. So asserting that evil, might be permitted for the sake of good is on a par with saying it possibly isn't. Possibly child rape by parents or priests is not pointless. But then again, possibly it is. Possibly it is not necessary after all. We must reclassify evil as good. Think about this. Are we prepared to say that the September 11th attacks or genocides in human history were really necessary? Okay, I'll take a break here. In part 2, I'll discuss question 4. How do some philosophers resolve the problem of evil? So this is the end of Learning Module 4 slideshow, part 1 of 2 parts. Look for the second part.